Welcome to the American Made and Paid Show, the home of free speech and independent thought.
The big story is freedom of speech is really in trouble. The far left knows that at any time they can call for a sponsor boycott of anyone they despise.
It is right here, right now, where you'll get your weekly dose of unfiltered truth.
It's non-negotiable. Pre-existing conditions will be protected. This president has said this as a candidate.
Insight.
Very few people I know could have handled it. We can never, ever let this happen to another president again.
And information that challenges the American way of life.
Welcome, everybody, to the American Made and Paid Show. Zach here. I'm back with Professor Dreg. Hope you guys all had a fantastic weekend here. A lot of rather eventful stuff going on, especially in the apparent suicide of Jeffrey Epstein, which we'll get into a little bit more so in this show. Whether you want to call it a Clinton conspiracy, dare say, I don't know. At this point, you know, when it comes to anybody who's got any kind of dirt on the Clintons, having an over 800% or 800 times likelihood of suicide or death, I don't know. I'd say that's pretty evident. We've talked about Jeffrey Epstein and his pedophilic sex cults quite a few times on this show. And I don't want to joke about suicide because that's always, you know, an unfortunate thing. And, you know, it sucks regardless of the individual. But this is what progressivism does to people. You know, so that's the first thing I want to remark. And we can definitely dive into some other aspects here. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Because that's, you know, it's something that folks have been talking about a little bit. Well, you know, he was on suicide watch and then the camera didn't capture it. And then they found him like dead, hanging. I don't know. Like.
Well, okay. But because this is one of the things that I will say, you know, without getting into conspiracies. But whenever you're on a suicide watch in prison, I don't know what prison, but almost every prison I know of, they put you in the cell with another inmate who's also on suicide watch.
Okay.
And there's a reason for that. And the reason why you are supposed to put a suicide watch with another suicide watch.
Yep.
Because people tend not to commit suicide in front of other people. So, you know what I mean? So, and it's, to me, it's extremely odd that somebody who's on suicide watch would be in a cell all alone with no other inmate.
So
because,
he was all alone? Is that the thing?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's unlikely that, because look, in prisons, it's hard for correctional officers to be everywhere at once. There's just not enough staff, so it could be one-on-one. You know, one, you know, correctional officer for one inmate. But because he was alone, it just seems real peculiar because it's been protocol for at least 10 years that...
I didn't know that. So that's protocol. When someone's on suicide watch, especially if they're in a jail cell, they stick another person in there.
Yeah,
that's
another inmate's on suicide. Yeah, so, you know, because it's... People don't kill themselves in front of other people because the other dude will be like, dude, you're waking me up, or, hey, man, you know, let's talk, because it's just the humane thing to do. And so it's amazing how this Jeffrey Epstein had no other cellmate, you know, and that's, I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, we don't have to get into I'm not here to debate, you know, conspiracies or anything like that, but a little fishy, you know, and
Yeah.
I think we were talking about this 2 weeks ago, and I was like, I think he's gonna die. Like, it's just, but you right now. I hate to say things like that. I don't want to be.
And then it comes to fruition, and it's like, ooh, oh. But it's just, hey, that's how it works. And we were speaking about how, you know, Hillary Clinton in particular knows a lot of people who were murdered, and then this other person was dead, and one of the girls claimed that, you know, Jeffrey Epstein took her to see governors and senators and all this other stuff. And I'm thinking,
he used to roll with Bill Clinton. They used to go on jet plane rides together and go to, you know, all that stuff where you would get a bunch of minors and girls and do all kinds of nasty things to them. This is not something that should be particularly surprising when it comes to either high-end elite sex cults or Hollywood sex cults. They're all the same. We talked about that one other guy not necessarily Jim Jones, but there was also who's that guy? Nexium guy. Man, for the life of me, huh?
Yeah, when you said Nexium, I'm like, oh yeah.
Keith Raniere, that's his name. Another guy who ran a sex cult. But he did it on women. He would brand women, and he would basically con them into joining his MLM. We talked about that a couple months ago.
No, but I'm telling you, that was just, that's oh man, the world never surprises me.
Here's the interesting thing, right? Because I want to dive into the progressive aspect of Jeffrey Epstein's beliefs. And the thing is, when you do things like run sex cults and everything, you don't have that kind of morality and values that God instills. And it's not even natural. That's one of the things, right? Believe it or not, he was like he was big on eugenics, big on transhumanism, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same old Margaret Sanger and
the death cult.
The death cult. Genetic engineering, improving humans, all that kind of stuff. It's like humans are pretty damn close to perfect and awesome. What ruins us is the world. It's not how you are. At the core of it, we're pretty good on that. I mean, I don't want to get into it too much, but I think that it's unfortunate, because this is just what progressivism does to people. It's a death culture. It's not just a debt culture, but it's a death culture, and we've talked about this since the beginning. So I hope that people who have been listening to us for several months now understand that progressivism, a departure from conservative values or Christian values, right? Because it's the antithesis of all of that. It's no God, it's atheism, is death. Because if God is life and God is the giver of life, anything that is the opposite of that is going to be the result, right? So we can sit here and talk.
Well said. No, but see, we can't gloss over that statement. I'm not kidding you. That was well said, because we said it several times about progressive ideology. It is a suicide ideology. It is a death. It's just a death culture that has to be. The people listening have to truly understand what it is. They literally. Because here's the thing, Robin Williams committed suicide, correct?
Right.
But the thing is, nobody wants to talk about how he had Louis, oh my God, I'm forgetting what it was called, but he literally had Louis, it was a protein disorder that gave him, Louis, what was it? Louis something dementia. And that's the protein disorder that gives you dementia, and it makes you schizophrenic. But and nobody wants to talk about that. They only focus on, he committed suicide. No, he had some protein dementia.
Sure.
And Louis body syndrome. He had Louis body syndrome. That's what he had. But they named the bridge after him based on suicide.
So that's what I want to talk about a little bit more so, because I want to touch on progressive ideology in the context of a lot of the things that we've discussed on this show. Jeffrey Epstein's apparent suicide, and it's the same thing with Anthony Bourdain, right? And a lot of these Hollywood people, and that one fashion designer that killed herself too.
Oh God, Kate Spade.
Kate Spade, that's right. All within the same.
Horrible.
That was pretty bad.
Note to her kids, go ask your father why I did it.
But
I'm thinking,
this progressivism, without God, without conservative values, I think is a death culture. And I think people can dance around it all they want to go, we don't need. But the thing is, I feel like that's just how we're made. We were made to seek these things out. We were made to adhere to God's perfect laws as a way of living the best life. Now, you don't need God, right? A lot of people are clearly successful without him. But I think the whole fulfillment of that, or you should say, because Jeffrey Epstein was a billionaire. Talk about fulfillment here. I think that's lack of fulfillment. You see what I'm trying to say? It's an appetite that's carnal that never gets satisfied, and it eventually leads to death.
I think what you said is part of the illusion. You cannot be successful because, in theory, normal
on the surface you can be, but you're not fulfilled on the inside.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the whole point. See, in theory, I would be considered successful. But because I don't understand, or I couldn't understand or even participate in the first commandment, which is to love God and love yourself, I couldn't do it. I still can't do it. It's hard for me to do it. But because of that, I'm not successful. I was an unsuccessful father, even though people go, oh, but your kid got into Stanford. Nah, because you know what I mean? That means nothing. It really does. It means literally nothing. Because what I couldn't give my kid was a spiritual guidance. So you know what I mean? So she's running around like the way I ran around, you know, as a kid, but just super smart, not going to do stupid things. But she's running around with no spiritual guidance because of why? And it's killing her on the inside. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. You could have all the money in the world, but if you don't understand how to love yourself, man, you are totally screwed. Success, money means nothing without, and I'm not saying God or Buddha. You don't need religion. You have to understand that first commandment that Jesus gave to everybody.
Sure. But let's evaluate this a little bit more, because another thing I want to talk about today, we don't have to jump in right away. I want to focus on Epstein and progressivism for a second, because I want to drive this point home with our listeners. I want to talk also about Pastor Manning, Pastor James David Manning,
Yeah.
crazy black pastor out in Harlem, who still has his church. That'll be another thing. But you know how in the beginning,
he ever lose his church just out of
curiosity? No, he never lost it. No, he didn't lose it.
Yeah, no, but no, I'm like, the reason why I knew about him was because the gay people try to take it over.
But so I want to get into that later. There's a reason for why what they're doing is not constitutional. And we all know the answer. He's allowed to espouse his beliefs.
Yeah.
That's the short answer. That's the short answer. But
the Muslims do the same thing. When a Muslim conquers a land, they put their temple there.
Exactly. So I'm glad you touched on that, because that's basically my answer. When people freak out, it's like, is he going to lose? No, he's not going to lose his church. Not just because of him espousing those views. It's constitutionally offensive that they took the building away from him.
You know what they try to do, though, right? They try to say he owed 20 years worth of water bills.
No.
Take his land.
And I'm glad that this guy knows his stuff, because he was like, I'm a 501c3. I don't owe nothing. And this is proven. That's why televangelists can get away with this. Churches don't get audited ever. It doesn't happen. And when it happens, it's just kind of like, dude, why did you? It's just bad luck. Like, that's when it happens. But it doesn't. It's not routine. It's not even protocol. Churches do not get audited. So all this stuff about you owe taxes or whatnot, he's tax exempt. That's what churches are. But anyways, to get back to the point, what I'm saying here is another thing that ties into Pastor Manning that's related to progressivism in the cases of Epstein is racism. Because one thing in the Bible it says is that we're all of one blood. So it doesn't matter what race you are, we're all the same in God's sight, right? However, think about the mindset that Epstein has. If you're starting to think in terms of transhumanistic type belief systems, and you actually dedicate your life to that, going around impregnating women because you think you have better DNA, that is the founding core roots of racism without even knowing it. So in a weird way, by acting out on your carnal impulses, you're prone to racism because you think you are better. You know, you think, and when people say, well, you know, racism is just like, well, because, you know, we're taught it and everything. I'm actually inclined to believe that it's because we lack the moral compass. It's like when we take away God and values, the basic, like you almost digress. You don't progress, you digress. You digress back to tribal mentality, which is my tribe don't like your tribe because you look different. And that's how racism starts.
Exactly. But the thing is, the problem that people don't see is that there is an entire industry based on fetishes. And every fetish is a type of stereotype of some sort of race. You know, like people with foot fetishes. You know, how did that even start? You know, barefoot and pregnant. There's a lot of there's just a lot of fetishes that start with racial stereotypes. And it's funny how Epstein would travel all around the world looking for these girls of different ethnic backgrounds based on his stereotypes that he can't get away with in the United States, but he could all over the world. He can go to Latin America, him and Bill Clinton or whoever, and they could have their way with a lot of Spanish-speaking black women.
Yeah.
Because why? You know, there's a lot of stereotypes with people who speak Spanish, you know, and you know, they do anything. They do this, they do that. Same thing with Asians. With the Asians, it's, oh, they're so submissive. You can do anything because they're submissive. Da 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 da. And it's just a weird thing because people believe those stereotypes. And the reason why, and I'll go back to it. See, now the Catholic Church is big in Asia. It's big in Latin America.
Latin countries.
Well, it's also big in Asia too. Like, you know, like in the Philippines. There's more, like if you go into China or, you know, even Korea, you're going to have more Catholics than you would Baptists or Pentecostals or whatever. It's just how it works.
We need more Baptists around the world. That's where it's at.
Well, the thing is, you hate to knock anybody's religion because that's not what we're trying to do. But that said, the Catholic Church has 1 billion people in it. That's 1/7 of the population. And at some point, people have to realize they're the ones pushing these stereotypes. They're the ones that allow these Jeffrey Epsteins to exist. Because how they teach, it's really perverted when you really think of, and it goes back to that guy, Pastor Manning, as crazy as he might be, because the one thing he doesn't understand is history. But he is correct in how black people act. You know, like he talks crazy about black people.
But he's so base. Like, he just doesn't care what people think.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've watched some of his other stuff, but they're so direct that he's right about a lot of things. And that's the thing. It's like, I'm not trying to side with crazy people here. People are like, why do you like Alex Jones? Why do you like Pastor Manning? Why do you like all these? Because, gosh, I think we're so brainwashed in mainstream and everything that whenever somebody even spits a degree of truth that is very, very evident, not through anecdotal evidence, but just purely from what you see all around you, like, we freak out. So here's the thing. You know how in the last episode I talked about how black people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Candace Owens' solution for the black population is, well, black people don't have to be Democrats. Black people need to vote Republican. No. What they really need is Christianity back in the homes. So what I'm trying to say is this, and we've talked about this. The black community, right? It's not, and I think that this can be said for all of us, but the black community in particular needs Christianity. They need Jesus as the head of their households again. Because why? When people say, well, they just need to vote Republican, part of what I was trying to evaluate in the last episode that I'm not getting here is, well, you know what? If they vote Republican, what are they really going to get? Is that going to teach them to go out and get a job? Is that really going to teach them to watch out for their neighbors and build their communities? Are they really going to even have stable family units and kids inside a stable family, right? Mom, dad, kids, without Christianity? I think if you're going to be a Candace Owens and go out and be an activist and be a conservative activist, dude, you got to preach the gospel to them. You got to get them. They need that because it starts from a value standpoint. It doesn't start
but
with.
Let's get into the but see, because even saying that is not enough, because you know everyone's gonna say, well, Catholics are Christian, and blah 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 blah. You're gonna have Jesus as the head of household, blah 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 blah. But that's still not enough. We have to honestly show people what Christianity looks like. Because what's that? The AOC. This is what a bartender looks like. This is what whatever it looks like. Okay, so we have to show people what Christianity honestly looks like. No, seriously.
Yeah.
Because it's like this. Does it look like Meghan McCain? Is that what Christianity looks
See,
like?
that's the problem. There's just a lot of bad examples of it. There's too many Christians in name only. Because here's the deal. I wouldn't say that Mike Pence is an ideal example of a Christian you should follow. You know what I mean? Here's the thing. The Christian, and you're right, because you've said this for weeks now, but the types of Christians that are the examples that are of real Christianity would be that guy that defended his Baptist church from that shooter and then didn't want any of the credit. He just wanted to safeguard his neighborhood, or that black Baptist pastor, right, who took care of it and didn't allow it to be blown out of proportion into a race war.
Yeah.
Those are the best examples of it.
Well, no. See, but there's a lot of other examples of it too that maybe we'll never get it. But here's the thing: a good example of a Christian are those dudes who used to help me in the old days.
Those are the best examples of it.
Yeah, with the fish symbol, then that the food was safe. Things like that. See, now that's what Christians need to start doing again. They have to start building up their community. They have to start building up other people. As well as themselves, because I'm telling you now, I don't really know the schematics or any blueprints of this, but I'm almost quite certain that when you're able to love yourself, you could automatically start giving and being charitable to others. There's a key. I mean, I don't know how it works, but I'm telling you, it's been working. I'm a product of that. It's
right. I believe it.
Stable minds. We're all sex perverts trying to take, because that's why I really urge people to watch that movie with Keanu Reeves and River Phoenix called My Own Private Idaho. But when you're a homeless kid, there's groups of people. She's active today, but whatchamacallit? There's a group of people who look like Jeffrey Epstein's of the world. You got to trust them. Why? Because they're Christians. And I think he was even Baptist. It's kind of sucks. But the thing is like this, these people, they make it a point to take advantage of the weak because their mind's all twisted with these, sex cult ideas and living forever and being, virile or, I don't know, it's VIR, like vitality. You know what I mean? So it's like, sure. But the truth is like this: when a guy gets old, they lose a step. Everybody loses a step. I'm losing a step. I lost many steps. I'm losing my hair. You know what I mean? I'm going gray. But it's just reality. You have to accept it. And, but yet, because we got this fantasy of living forever or being able to pick up on hot chicks forever, and that's the other thing too. It's like even the notion of like, oh, you got to be hot chicks, and even all that stuff is silly. It's just pure silliness. But until we get back into just loving yourself and accepting who you are, because God, what's her name? There's this girl, I believe her name is Bethany Hamilton.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? She's that girl who got her arm bit off by a shark.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Well, if you go on her website, she is a hardcore Christian. Yeah, you got to see who she is, because she, like,
Sophia's making a lot of noise. She's making noise today.
Oh, yeah, that's all right. Just ignore it. People need to ignore my baby. There's just no way around it. Yeah, her name is Bethany Hamilton, and she has a movie called Unstoppable. Now, see, here's the thing. This girl, she got attacked they bit off her arm, some shark. I don't know why, but it sounds messed up. I'm laughing because that's how, look, I find to me, it's like this.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one of those things. You take a risk, da 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 da. But she learned from it, and instead of being like, oh, feeling sorry for herself, you know what? She goes, that's just a sign for me to give back to my community. And now her community is a bunch of people who lost limbs. That's her community of people, and she does great work. I mean, you know, a lot of people don't even know who she is. But I would like to plug her movie, you know, because I think she deserves, I think she honestly deserves people to watch that movie. Because if you just go to her name is Bethany, Bethany. Hamilton's pretty easy to spell. So Bethany Hamilton, just go to her website, and then you get to see what she does. Yeah. You know, she's had a couple of kids with only one arm, and her husband seems like a cool dude. And you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's how Christians have to be. You know, Christians with a little bit of power, a little bit of money should do a little bit more. Why?
Right.
Because their quote unquote, you know, tithing is bigger. So they're able to do more. But if you tithe and you're a poor person, you tithe, you only got $1, that 10 cents doesn't do much. So you don't get as much credit or whatever, but that's okay. You shouldn't be looking for the credit. And that's why what she does is very understated. People don't know what she does, but those are examples of Christians that our political leaders need to start following. Because remember how we spoke about this. How can we fix our school system? Well, real easy. One of the solutions, not one, but the only solution that honestly would work is to give companies like any tech company, I don't care who it is, Apple, you know, Amazon, it don't matter. Not that Amazon does tech, but Intel would be a good example. You know, any company that focuses on science and technology, those people should be given tax breaks. Those people go into the schools and start teaching math, start teaching science for 8 hours. They can go back and do all that stuff, and then you get a tax break. You get a tax write-off on your payroll taxes. It's a 20% savings that every company can do, and all those kids will have an education. See, now Bethany does something like that, but on a smaller scale.
Sure.
Maybe not, but that's what Christians are supposed to do. See, the problem Christians make right now is that the people with money are obsessed with money.
Right.
They don't know how to be giving. They don't know how to build up a community. You know, like, it's interesting. If you understand the history of supermarkets, like, how did the Piggly Wiggly start? You know, the dudes were actually just basic couple of Christian dudes that had an idea. Instead of like just making big profits, they go, no. What we need to do is sell in volume, lower the prices so everybody could afford things, and we make our money selling in volume. And that's what they did, because that's what you're supposed to do. See, because a lot of people fear technology. Why? Yeah, this goes back to a lot of pastors too. They fear technology because they fear technology is like the devil's thing and all this other BS or whatever. But it's not. Technology left in a carnal mind is always going to be to make people rich. Nobody has ever invented anything and goes, I want to help people with this technology. Right. You know, we've spoken about energy. We have energy sources that will be, you know, because look, everybody knows this. I don't know if you know anything about the end drive or anything like that, but
yeah,
everybody knows we can pull electricity right out of the air. It's just all we need is you know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and we got electricity for everybody, self-sustaining. Because like, I'll give you a really good example. And this goes against this thing about, what's that guy, Pastor Manning, saying blacks never invent anything. But just see, because he just doesn't know. So in Nigeria, there's a guy, and this company, It's amazing what this guy's done. And look, the guy, he's a multimillionaire now, and he's not helping anybody in Nigeria. It's just what happens, because this is what black people do. They have this dictator mentality. But anyway, so this car, what he does is he takes the energy from the braking and it recycles into the battery. So therefore, it's perpetual,
But Pastor Manning was not aware of any of this?
No, I mean, even if he was or wasn't, but because he's just an angry, what's wrong with Pastor Manning is his anger. He's just an angry dude. And the thing is, I don't care how gay a person is, I'm not going to curse at him. You know what I mean? I'm not going to, say, hey, look, you got AIDS. I told you so, you sodomite. You know what I mean? That's not how we do it. Because no one's ever, being black, no one ever called me the N-word. Nobody, no white people, whoever was helping me, hey, here's some food, Negro. And no one ever said that to me. Other blacks said it, young kids said it, but no one who's ever helped me ever called me the N-word or said, hey, cut your hair. No one ever said that to me. They just helped unconditionally. And that's the thing. People need to help unconditionally. They shouldn't expect anything in return. But we do expect something. If Jeffrey Epstein helps you, you know what he's expecting. Guy or girl, you better avoid that penis of his, because that's what he's expecting. He wants some kind of satisfaction, and that ain't cool. And that's what people associate Christianity with, is they'll help you, but it's going to cost you something. And that's the thing. It's it shouldn't be that way, because a lot of people and I hate to say things like this, but I actually like this one pastor dude, but because I went to his church, and then he was talking about his memberships, but you got to be a member. And I'm thinking, see, that's wrong. That's
wrong. Yeah. You're right. You're picking up on it. That can't be right.
Yeah.
God's house is not a place of merchandise and making money.
No, but you want to know what's crazy? I did some research. Bill Clinton actually was there at that church. And every year they do a big old thing, and a lot of famous pastors go there, and really big dudes. You know what I mean? That's why I don't want to give anything away. But that's the thing. It's come on. There's tons of people that need to be helped, and I'm a big believer of this. Our technology is to be because everything's in the Bible. And when it comes to tech, this tech is supposed to be for everybody, regardless of whether you're circumcised or not. Or as they say, Jew or Gentile, it doesn't matter.
That's it. Yeah.
And the thing is, we do not share our tech. We just don't. China's always trying to steal stuff, steal this, steal that. That African dude, with self-perpetuating energy in his battery. You know what I mean? He didn't just give it away. Everybody wants to get paid. Even my own friends do this. They want to get paid for what they do. And it's funny because I don't know if I ever told you that story about how I invented some kind of toilet that would eliminate waste instantly and clean your behind at the same time.
A bidet? That's
Yeah, well, no, I gave up on it because I couldn't figure out how to clean your backside properly. But they're actually using my tech and other type of stuff. So you could actually use what I proposed, because everybody, in the beginning, this is more than 10 years ago. Everybody goes, dude, liquid mercury is too dangerous. I was like, no way. Because I said, look, because, with liquid mercury, when you go fast enough, But anyway, long story short, they're actually using it now. So you can have a hoverboard. You can move faster. You maybe 25% of the speed of light, maybe move that quick, because with it, it bends gravity. And that's why I keep telling everybody, see, people have to honestly read the Bible to understand how gravity works, because Newton's laws of physics, those are just the basics. That is just the basics. It is just our basic understanding. But the reason why we don't know our science is because we don't want to share it. We want to profit from it. And that's wrong. And that's why all these pastors are like against technology. Don't be against it. Be against people being greedy, because we live in heaven. We do. Whether it's temporary or not, we live in paradise. This is paradise. I mean, just go outside and just marvel at how beautiful this place is. But yet somehow, some way, we're angry. We're a bunch of angry people who are pissed off that our neighbor has more money than us. We're pissed off that our neighbor has like some kind of vanity, bay windows, and we don't. You know what I mean? And why do we get like that? And that's what needs to be, spoken about, because everything you said earlier could be avoided if you simply just loved yourself and then you loved your neighbor. Seriously, don't judge, don't hate, I don't know that word, covet, I guess. Don't covet what they have. Just don't do it. And then there would be no Jeff Epsteins, because why? Somebody would, just like in the suicide watch, then theory, the inmate would have stopped him. Somebody would have stopped Jeff Epstein if we had true Christians.
Right.
Our country, and this is where Pastor Manning is wrong. Black people did do great things in this country. They built a lot when they were Christians. But now they have this newfangled Christianity. Look at, they're at the bottom again. You know what I mean? Because they're not retarded. They're not missing a limb. Even if you're missing a limb, look at what Bethany Hamilton did. Instead of like, oh my God, I lost my arm. I need to go to the VA. Not that she did this in the, you know what I mean?
Sure. No victim mindset, very strong in her beliefs.
Dude, she became a world champion one-armed in surfing.
Yeah.
That ain't easy. And that's extremely difficult, because, that water is no joke.
Yeah.
She loves the ocean because she thinks, God made, well, obviously God made it. Oh, and that's the other thing too. You know what? Well, I mean, it's a thing, but I'm telling you now, my work with liquid mercury, mercury is always usually liquid, but it could be a solid, it could be gas, and with heat. But anyway, I don't want to, that's a tangent, but yeah. I'm understanding all that stuff in Genesis when he split. First it was nothing, then he had to split the waters. And that's the point. These waters are meant for us to understand. Oil is just one of the waters, but it's oil. Salt water is different from fresh water. There's all kinds of things that we just don't know. And like when aluminum is a liquid, it attacks the nervous system. It just does. And that's why aluminum and deodorants are really bad for you. That's a health and safety tip for the crowd listening. Don't use because aluminum in your body, because of the heat and everything else, it will attack your nervous system eventually. Traces them out, but it builds over time. And if you want to see what aluminum does to the nervous system, go watch some video where some kid is pouring liquid aluminum into a watermelon, like tons of it, and it attacks all the seeds. And then when you open the watermelon, the flesh is fine, but the seeds are all attacked because it goes out to the nervous system. All metals do this. Why? Because we are energy. We're electricity. It's just, all our brain waves, da-da-da-da-da. And that's how, well, I mean, I don't want to, because I honestly don't know, but my theory is that's how God was able to do what he does, because he is pure energy. He just is. It's just, that's how he's able to do all the things, and everything around us is energy, whether it's the sun, water, it's just different forms of it. And it can be broken down into energy. That's why everything's breaking down to sugars, blah, 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 because it gives our body energy. And, but anyway, it's fascinating.
Yeah. But let's actually, that's good. I mean, I'm glad that we kind of pulled it into different perspectives here, but that's the big thing that I wanted to dive into, is the progressivism that I feel like is preventing people from seeing the truth of what it is, because it's not even about making things more complicated. It really is that simple. It's I think that Pastor Manning, I mean, I know people probably are not fans of him because he's pretty.
I'm a fan of his, but but not because he's a Christian. It's because he's telling it as it is, as an angry black man. No, and I shouldn't like this dude's anger, but at some point you got to get angry. I mean, Jesus was angry. He got angry at the money changers, right? And that's the thing. Like, look, you can't be perfect. Pastor Manning's not perfect, but man, I love that dude. No, because it's the truth. Somebody needs to tell, differently, but somebody needs to tell gay people, hey, look, you guys are in a world of hurt. Yeah. You guys are doing things to each other that's insanely gross. It's like, how can you guys even find pleasure in what you guys do? You know what I mean? And this is years ago, but I had a conversation like that with some gay guy before. And then he goes, is that what you think about, gay sex? It's like poop everywhere. And I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, because that's what you guys do. They're like, no, we clean. I'm like, yeah, but even if you do, come on, an hour of prepping? I said, that ain't cool. I said, at some point during that hour, doesn't it pop in your head that maybe you shouldn't be doing it? You know what I mean? Like, if you have to honestly use the enema, soap suds, and all this other stuff to clean your intestines, which will never do, because it's impossible to get rid of all that bacteria, all of that stuff that's living in there. Whether it's E. coli or enterococci, all of the eyes that are deadly. Yeah. At some point, does it ever cross your mind? And he goes, well, but I love my partner. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not what love is. You know what I mean? Like, why would you sacrifice your body that way just because you love some dude? You know what I mean? I wouldn't ask my wife to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to ask her to sacrifice her. I know. Yeah. I know. The baby is funny, man. But anyway, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's the thing, like, Christians need to articulate that without sounding like condemning. Like, nobody wants to hear turn or burn. You know what I mean? Because I don't know.
It's the truth.
No, I know it's the truth, but the thing is, like, but that's not how you change hearts and minds, I don't think. You know what I mean? Because if you just tell them out, like a lot of kids, like, I only spanked my one kid once. I never yelled at her because she was never bad, except for that one time when I had to spank her when she was 3. But ever since, I just, give her a lot of hugs, a lot of kisses, a lot of affection. And look, come on, she's top notch. You don't get into Stanford by being an idiot. You know what I mean? Yeah. But she was a well-rounded kid. But, again, she doesn't have any spiritual guidance, which is my fault. And she's going to grow up just as confused as I was. And it's just how it works. And so, God bless her. But, she'll find her way because she's a smart kid. Most scientists will always find God. It's just a reality, because once you start to read the Bible, you're like, oh my God, the answers are here the whole time. Somebody should have given me this book a long time ago. And
that's what a lot of people say.
No, but that's what progressive ideology does. They're the ones that change the Bible.
Yeah.
The progressive change everything. They change how we love. They change how we marry. They change how we educate our kids. Mm-hmm. As soon as Black people fell into the progressive trap, they were screwed. In the old days, in the slavery days, they had a school system where they would pass down their knowledge to everybody. The same way they would do the whole general store thing. In the old days, they had a trading post. You trade for services or whatever. And you can pass knowledge the same way. And that's the Christian way. Mm-hmm. Believe it or not, that is how Jesus had wanted it. He wanted you to somehow, some way, make money trading your services. And therefore, you could help others. Because why? You have extra cash. And then you can give others a means to that.
But you're not, and that's the difference here between us and socialism, is one mandates you to do so while the other is voluntary. Similar to Catholicism. One is mandated legislative law and the other is voluntary.
And they got this weird thing about punishment.
The one thing that people need to understand that I have to drive home here is that you're not a Christian because of your works. You're a Christian because of your faith, right? Now, you do good works, right? Because that's what God does and when you get changed. But that's the thing with Catholicism, the same way with Islam, is that, well, you're born into it, right? You're born into Islam. And how does Islam enforce Islam with over 1 billion members in Islam? Is with the sword. You're forced to do it. It's like, you don't do it, you die. And if you try to get out of it, you're not in good shape. You probably get killed too, depending on the country you're in. And Catholicism was not too different, even in the 1600s when they all like came to the, it's like if you didn't take on Catholicism, they would probably burn you, literally. Like that was a real thing. And Christianity is voluntary. As a matter of fact, if you reject Christ, then we're like, all right, your damnation.
More power to you.
And that's
it is in hell.
But doesn't it speak to the sort of the way people really are when people willingly give themselves to an idea, to a faith, and then they want to actually help people? You really do live your best life. So what I'm trying to say is, I feel like people, because of how we're indoctrinated in our societies, we feel like laws and rules and doing things right are the same as having faith and trusting yourself and loving yourself, when in reality they're related. But you don't need one. Like, for example, one thing is with Catholicism that's really big is that a lot of it is works based, right? And that's wrong. That's actually wrong. It's not works based. Or why do you go to a priest and confess your sins to a priest and have him absolve you of it? Only God can do that. Why does a priest have the ability to do that? Right? Nothing about that is biblical, and nothing about that is doctrinally sound. It's not.
No, but not just that, but it's weird. Because again, remember what we spoke about this before, how Islam mandates you to submit to their beliefs. You got to submit to Allah. You got to. And it's the same thing in Catholicism. You got to submit to these weirdos who are going to forgive you of whatever it is that they think is forgivable. I killed somebody. Well, okay. You 10 Hail Marys and don't do it again. Okay. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. It's like, it's just a weird thing. It's just a weird, well, I mean, it's a big ass cult, but with 1 billion people. So it's just a weird thing. But again, whose fault is it? I believe it's the real Christians' fault for not being good examples of Christianity, because that's what we need. Our economy needs it. We need real Christians. Our educational needs it. We need real Christians back in leadership, whether it's in the school boards, whether it's in whatever. But then we fall into these traps of like, oh, hey, I'm against abortions. I'm against, what? Forget about all of that stuff. Just lead. Instead of trying to get, something, just lead by example. It's always the best way. And when people see how you live, they're going to see like that Bethany Hamilton. How come she didn't get an abortion? She only has one arm. Can you imagine her carrying 2 kids? Or even surfing at that matter? But the point is, it's like her thing is, I don't know if she's a missionary now or whatever, but she's only helps girls. And that's how it should be. She's very girly, but she's tough, because if you're going to be surfing and you got all that water crashing down on you, you're a tough chick, but she's still girly, very feminine, and she got married, has a couple of kids, and you can still be a woman and be strong just because.
But be a woman.
Yeah.
With your role.
I mean? She ain't trying to fight wars or replace being a man. She caters to girls. I mean, she's helped a lot of kids with no legs or one leg and helps them. Dude, you got to really look into her, because that's what our leaders should be. People like that, just unassuming, just, under the radar, but they move and will change our future. We need more people like that, just like you. I believe you have it in you, and people will watch you through your examples. You know what I mean? Like, you live a pretty good life right now. You know what I mean? You're not addicted to whatever. You overcame serious stuff. And when you start making it, and become more prominent, I think people are going to watch this example and they're going to live like you. You know what I mean? And that's what Christianity should be like. You got to give some credit to God, because the people, I never knew what that fish symbol meant. I never knew that was a Christian symbol.
Right.
Until adulthood, when I saw the Darwin fish with legs eat the Christian fish on somebody's car. So I don't know if you ever seen those symbols, on the people's cars with the Christian fish.
Yeah.
There's a symbol with the Darwin fish, and it says Darwin in it with 4 legs eating the Christian fish. And, that's then I was like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, I didn't know that was a Christianity symbol.
Right.
And I still don't know why. Oh, maybe because of the fish that God made, all those multiple fish.
What's also, if you follow him, he will make you fishers of men. That could be another thing too.
Okay, well, either way, so yeah, but you know what I'm saying? And that's the thing. It's like, we allow Jeffrey Epstein to be our example of Christianity, and Bill Clinton. Well, come on. Yeah. Bill Clinton walks around, because it's the truth. Every time Bill Clinton got in trouble, what did you see him with? A big ass Bible, bigger than his head. That Bible was huge. It took him, like a suitcase. Every time he was in trouble, he would go to church and carry that Bible. And then Lisa Simpson said it famously: prayer is the last refuge of the scoundrel. Because look at Bill Clinton. He's our example of Christianity. Look at Bill Epstein. He's our example of Christianity. Those are Christian people. They believe in God and they believe in Christ. And every time they fuck up, they go, oh, God forgive me, and start crying. And then people forgive them.
Yeah.
But that's not Christianity at all. I don't want to say that's the devil, but that's demonic. That's carnal mind pretending and fooling everybody, because everybody will excuse it. Like, yeah, if I had that kind of money, I'd do that. And I'm thinking, I had that kind of money and I never did that. No,
it's always really funny when people say, it's like, well, if I was in his position, I wouldn't be able to handle the stress. I'd, do it. No, not every person is like that.
No, very few people are like that. How many other billionaires do this? Very few. Seriously, you don't see, as much as I don't like Mark Zuckerberg, you don't see Mark Zuckerberg hanging out with a bunch of sex cults. We don't know, but yeah, you're right. No, but we would know. Trust me. In today's day and age, we would know. Same thing with Bill and Melinda Gates. We would know. But but he doesn't do things like that. Yeah. And that's the thing. Very few people, politicians do it all the time, because, it's just, yeah, it's a sad thing. But even with that, Kylie, who's the youngest billionaire?
Kylie Jenner.
Even her, look at her. Is she like that? Or is she?
I don't know.
No, well, no. Now she has kids. She's trying to get married, but the guy don't want to marry her, and she's trying to be a Christian. But when she settled down, she made $1 billion. She had a kid or two or something like that. She's trying to raise her kids, but she's still doing it wrong. But, she changed. Same thing with the other Kardashian. They're trying to get into faith. And it's amazing. If you just see all the stuff that's happening in San Francisco, I honestly feel like there's a change coming. And I'm not saying it's through your show, but, man, I'm telling you now, it's happening. Things are really happening. But, again, it's our examples of Christians that are lacking. And that's the problem. So, Pastor Manning, I love the dude, man. I really do. But he can't.
The last thing. Oh, go ahead. Because
he just can't be our leader. Like, he can't be an example.
He just says some of the funniest stuff. There was a part where he went on David Pakman's show, right? And he was talking about semen in Starbucks coffee, gay semen in Starbucks coffee. And the guy was with a straight face. He was talking about like the Skull and Bones fraternity cult from Yale, and how it's like to be part of that. You know, you have to have like I have to do gay stuff with like other men or whatnot. And he was just describing it in graphic detail without flinching. You know, and. But that's the funny thing with Pastor Manning. He says some outlandish things, but there's some
it's
truth.
Not outlandish because it's pretty true.
It's pretty true. It's pretty true.
Because not only with did he talk about the animal stuff that they have to do and crap like that?
Yeah, he was saying something like, he said it in his words. It was just like, yeah, George Bush and George Bush Sr. had to do gay stuff, have men urinate in their faces, and you know all that. Lie naked in a coffin, like all that kind of weird stuff. Like,
well, because you hear all kinds of weird stuff, but I from what I heard, you have to do weird stuff with the goat and just weird, because you know the goat's the symbol of the devil or something like that. I don't know if that's true, but some reason like they say a goat is somehow associated with the devil.
Yeah,
and I don't know why, but yeah, so you got to do weird stuff to a goat and just all kinds of crazy stuff. And I don't know. I mean, I have no reason to doubt the people telling me these things, but I'm like, really? And I'm like, yeah, I guess it makes sense because look at the power they get. You know, it's not like these people from the Skull and Bone Society are losers. They have a lot of power. You know, like how do these people become, you know, Supreme Court justices? How do they become presidents and senators? You know, how everybody has to go to Yale or Harvard or Princeton? Makes no sense. How do we, a country of 300 million, only think it's okay if you went to Harvard, Princeton, or Yale to rule our lives? Seriously, think about this. And these would be my final thoughts. If a dude said he went to, I don't know, Mount Bethel University and got a PhD in Bible studies, is he qualified to be president? And most Christians will say no. They would. They would say no.
Right,
you
right.
Somebody who went to Harvard, Princeton, Yale, who pissed on themselves and did something to a goat. And that's okay. Seriously, that's who they want. Everybody didn't like Trump because, you know, according to everybody, he's uneducated. He's stupid.
Yeah.
And I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they still says like, yeah, I don't like Trump because he doesn't seem successful. And then this person goes, I said, he's not successful. He's the president. Yeah, but he filed bankruptcy. And I'm thinking, what? Trump's not successful because he filed bankruptcy? I was like, dude, are you kidding me? He lost billions, filed for bankruptcy, and he got his billions back.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But anyway, but that's the thing. People have a weird, twisted sense because of what the media tells them. They don't know how to think for themselves. Seriously, who would vote for a guy who may or may not be successful, but, you know, he went to some Bible school? Most Christians won't vote for him. They wouldn't, because they say, he doesn't have the experience. He doesn't know how to do world affairs. But what better way to win over the world and change the world for a positive good than through Christianity? It's the only system that works. Christianity, in my opinion, is a collective of systems that works together. Because just like how we used to pray, you know, at our track meets, we would never pray for ourselves. We would always pray for others and all kinds of crazy stuff that, you know, like our anchor, you know, that grew up to be a pastor, he would say all kinds of crazy stuff I didn't understand, but now I know. It's like, oh my God, this dude was like ahead of his time. But because he lacked, you know, scientific knowledge and things like that, no one really took him seriously. But and they took me seriously because I was smart. You know, I could go into any room, speak to any politician, like, you know, those community meetings and stuff like that. Dude, when I speak, everybody shuts up. They say, hey, let this brother speak. And I'm thinking, yeah, too bad I don't know anything about God, or else I'd be talking. But whatever. But the point is, we would never vote for a Christian, even though we know this is how sound economies work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not kidding. Did you know that's how the Christians in the early day won over the Indians? Because that's how they traded for services. The very first store was, those general stores like you see in those old Westerns, when they had everything. You sell foods, plates, blankets, and they allowed, because, Indians didn't know a lot about, tobacco and they worked with leathers mostly, but they didn't know how to work with, like cotton. You know what I mean?
Oh.
So, yeah, that was a weird.
Yeah, my camera's acting up. But yeah, finish up the thoughts because we've got to wrap this up.
Yeah, but that's my point. Christianity principles taught these dudes how to survive. So they traded for services. They allowed other people to become rich based on their system where everybody benefits. And you make a little money, everybody benefits, and that's how Christianity works. Every single system, from education, everything is in there in Christianity. Everything, and it's real simple. It's just two little simple commandments can start everything. It's insane. So Jeffrey Epstein, he bastardized it all. He became a tyrant because he can do that. If Christianity goes unchecked, the devil can run it all. And that's what happened with Jeffrey Epstein.
That's certainly true. Well, we got to wrap this up, guys. Thank you for listening to the American Made and Paid show. Gotta take some calls. So we'll see you guys all soon, and we'll talk soon. All right? Take care, guys.